All right, thank you everyone for being here. So I want to talk, my name is Brendan. I'm one of the folks building Leaflet, which if you're not familiar, I see some of you may be familiar, but it is a platform for blogs and newsletters and publishing long-form content on the internet using atproto. So I want to talk today about atmospheric stacks. And this is not stacks in the technical sense, but stacks in the Substack sense. And this is the case study that I'm going to use contrasting this kind of legacy social app, social network, publishing app, and then this new ecosystem that we are building together and what that looks like in this new kind of open, collaborative ecosystem model of a stack of all the features and social things that entails. So how do we compete with incumbent social apps? We have all these big apps like YouTube and Instagram and Substack. I am going to posit that we do so as an ecosystem with atmospheric stacks that look very different, not replacing these proprietary walled garden apps and their stacks by recreating them app for app within a single app, but doing so collectively. And we can look at Leaflet and Standard Site and the social publishing ecosystem as, I think, a model for how we can do that, even though we are still very early days. A big thing we have to do is solve for distribution and network effects, and I think we can do that collectively. So we can take all the good features that you expect from a product or set of products and the incentives that make people use those products and the network effects that are created when those things all come together. Not just feature parity, but figuring out how we can solve the distribution and kind of ecosystem and giving creators viable business models and ways to make sustainable incomes. And the reality is that these large incumbent social apps have big structural advantages. And we have our work cut out to figure out how we can compete, and I think we can do it together. So atmospheric stacks in this new world look a lot more like ecosystems. We have a superpower of composability, lots of apps and people and services we can all work together, which involves more complexity and more coordination costs, but I think that is a trade-off worth making because in the old world, a lot of those things just aren't possible at all. So we can have more flexible and more powerful and vibrant, resilient social experiences and tools, both on the user side and for builders too. There's a lot of advantages to being able to work together. And that ends up with an ecosystem that might have a bunch of, a small handful of popular tools that do kind of the core features we expect from publishing use cases. For example, we'll get more into the details there, but you have some core tools, you have a rich ecosystem around it, and you have a lot of choice for users and ways to mix and match and put all those pieces together into different experiences. So the way I'm thinking of it is we are building rainforests rather than skyscrapers. If the old model of a stack is everything in one place in this kind of big monolith where it's rigid and it looks nice and works well, but it's kind of boring. Instead, we can build rainforests, diverse ecosystems with lots of different life forms and symbiotic relationships and vibrant evolutionary growth. So the case study I'm going to talk about a bit more tonight is the social publishing stack around. We have Standard Site, it's kind of open set of standards that a bunch of different publishing apps have formed and coalesced around, and the ecosystem that enables when you have this common ground to build on. And we get different interesting ecosystem dynamics, both a mix of competition and cooperation or coopetition. So we have different publishing apps that have overlapping feature sets that are competing in certain ways, but are also doing different things and experimenting with different prototypes and carrying different vibes into the ecosystem. And we can coordinate and work together and create a lot more value for people using the ecosystem overall and grow things for everyone. And then there's a lot of interesting symbiotic dynamics too with, for example, different folks making publishing tools versus social discovery and search tools or reading apps and all kinds of other different utilities and things for the ecosystem that is not really possible in a closed network. So we're going to talk about Substack and kind of what they bring to the table in this existing social publishing stack. It's a lot more than just internet publishing. I think some people wish that we could just get everyone self-hosting their websites or publishing on whatever other newsletter apps. There's obviously a lot more to it than that. There's not only the publishing tools and the customization tools, there's the low friction to publish things for free, the ease of monetizing your newsletter, social features, and the whole network around that follow graph and different ways of publishing and commenting and recommending, and the strong brand and cultural footprint across lots of different verticals, and everything being in one place and supporting a long tail of other media-related features and collaboration features and things. So just to kind of emphasize that Substack is also a social network, not just a publishing app, and that's fairly unique, and I think it goes the same for other big social platforms that are also tools like YouTube, where we use it because it's easy to host videos, but more so because it is a place that everyone goes to watch videos, and it's the best place to get distribution for the things that you want to put out in the world. And I think although Substack overstates things a little bit, and if you're publishing on the internet, you do still need to build your audience and think about growth along all sorts of different axes. They still do have some powerful network effects that are meaningful for creators, and we have to appreciate that. And really, if we're competing, try to take on not only the publishing features, but the social features. So the atmospheric publishing stack, I think what we are collectively trying to build is a combination of a bunch of different layers. There's publishing apps like Leaflet and Pocket and Offprint. There's the wider community of people building on standard site, whether that is people publishing records for their self-hosted websites, people building reader and discovery tools and other sorts of things, and then how that connects with the wider atmosphere, everyone else building things that might be able to interoperate in compelling ways and connect to other distribution channels and social networks and the rest of the internet. That's what we're really going for here. And this results in a world where we can shape our own experiences in a lot richer ways, where if we want to, we can pick one app and mostly do things within the parameters of that app. But if we want to, we can also move between apps or use a bunch of different apps and mix and match and pick up different things for different needs while still being able to participate in the entire network. And so I think this calls back nicely to Belle's talk about building for niche communities, niche experiences. There's a lot more kind of space for that to happen when you can build those niche apps while not having to sacrifice being able to be part of the full network. So a lot of the things that we do in Substack look a lot different in the new atmospheric stack, from finding things to read, to subscribing to blogs, starting new publications, having conversations around the things that we read, building integrations and custom tooling. Just to look at one example, I was looking at how we find things to read in the Substack world. There's a lot of different things and ways that they have suggestions and recommendations, but it's mostly all tied within the Substack app and network. And maybe things that you're posting on Twitter that get suppressed. But in the atmosphere, we have a greater diversity of ways to read and explore things. And that goes beyond what we can do with something like RSS or finding things on Google, because we have a lot of the whole social network thing all included. We can see what our friends are reading in different reader tools. We can explore any app, basically can build their own discovery experiences. So these are just a few different ones, like Standard Reader, Leaflet, Pocket, and Blue Sky feeds even. We can create Blue Sky feeds for discovering posts. And I I think going back to the list of things that Substack does, there are ones that are easy to replicate and ones that are more difficult. And I think we have already made a lot of progress on the easy ones, like making tools that let you publish blogs, being able to customize them and have certain social interactions and make that interoperable with atproto. We kind of get out of the box. There are bigger open questions on things like business models and creator monetization and giving people the incentives to keep creating and make what they're doing sustainable and have growing network effects and creating strong brands around not only individual tools, but the whole ecosystem. There are things like being free to publish that maybe we can mitigate by creating better alternatives to email as a distribution channel, for example. And there are a lot of interesting UX challenges in bringing together this disparate set of tools into a user experience that does at least potentially feel cohesive and really nice to use and easy for people to understand and navigate. I think as a starting point, we are already seeing a lot of really cool things from not only the existing publishing apps that I mentioned already, but there are some really great search tools. There are integrations like Blue Sky's recent link card integration that does the pretty previews of standard site posts. WordPress launched a plugin for atmospheric publishing, and Sequoia as well for publishing standard site compatible content. And there are some cool things happening on the reader front. It's kind of like new generation of RSS style readers that have all the social stuff baked in and are experimenting with some other stuff. Like one cool experiment that Standard Reader did recently is a way to publish collections of standard site posts that kind of give a more curatorial impetus for people to not just write something to their own blog, but put together like a magazine that compiles things that they have selected from anywhere in the ecosystem of things people are publishing. There's also some cool things on the creator payments front. Joe talked last month about Atmosphere Money, which is an early stage infrastructure for creator monetization tools and has a lot of cool potential for apps to build monetization features that are socially aware. Jared also talked recently about page parts, which is another work in progress set of lexicons for mentions and embeds that could do some cool things with making it easier for publication apps or other tools to embed and reference other content from other apps in the atmosphere, whether that's events and calendar things or videos and podcasts and other sort of creative content type things. So a big point I think to emphasize here is that evolution always wins, and it's one of the big advantages that we have going for us as an ecosystem, just in terms of how, when we build collectively, we can evolve and explore a lot more space together. So just to point out a couple examples, Leaflet a while back initially shipped a feature that lets you select a highlight from a post and share that as a quote to Blue Sky with a nice image preview attached. And Pocket and Offprint also adopted similar features, and that became kind of like this cool standard way to share stuff from atmospheric blog posts to Blue Sky. And we're playing with some other things too, like collaborative publications. We'll see where that goes. There's some other things like Pocket has done a really cool integration with an atproto native domain registrar recently, so you can easily buy a domain and apply it to your blog really seamlessly. And Offprint is doing some cool things like another related project around PDS hosting that could make it easier to sign up for an account without having to make a Blue Sky account first and be able to offer that to other apps. And I think we could point a number of other examples, but the point here is we can all experiment in different directions and eventually coalesce around these common patterns that work well and make those things that we can offer to everyone. So back to the co-opetition, we are kind of able to explore a lot more space and maybe differentiate on the things that we kind of have as particular interests or vibes in our apps, but then when we identify patterns that seem more globally useful, we can kind of drill down and figure out how to adopt those all together. And some of that is how Standard Site came together in the first place, just realizing that we're all publishing a lot of the same shared metadata around blog posts, and it would be great if we could have a standard so that reader and discovery tools and other things could have a common lexicon, set of lexicons to speak. So I think we are kind of at a phase shift where we have a ton left to explore, and we are getting a lot of the basics in place and working really nicely, and we are now at the point where we're starting to explore a lot of the cool, more weird and unique and only possible in the atmosphere kinds of things, whether it's publishing tools or social experiences or ways for creators to monetize beyond kind of the very basic Substack model, and other things that potentially combine these. I'm thinking about like combinations of social features and monetization features, where you could make it so that if a given number of people share a blog post, then it unlocks it for free for everyone, even if it was originally behind a paywall. Things like that become possible, especially when we combine that with all the in-flight work around permission data and things to support groups and communities that is happening at the protocol level, and also with a bunch of other apps and builders exploring what that could look like, from Blue Sky to Black Sky to other big internet publishers that might want to adopt something of their own and build these new bespoke experiences that combine publishing and social and membership communities and all kinds of other cool things. So we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of things to figure out and solve, and a lot of communities to build for. I want to grow Standard Site 1,000-fold, maybe in the next year, maybe in the next 10 years. We'll see where it goes, but I think we have a lot of really cool things that we can get into together, and I'm excited to keep building and also kill Substack. So hopefully soon. All right, thank you. Question?
Any questions for Brendan?
Hi.
Hey.
So I have a question. It's like question/suggestion. So I've been doing a lot of work trying to get like creatives on atprotocol, okay. This is feedback. Explaining it the way that you have explained it, they're like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But I have onboarded quite a few people onto Leaflet now. And the main thing they got excited was color. They're like, I can make my blog pink. Woo! And I think maybe a reframing of the things that we're talking about, and I think this goes for everybody, is like, make an app without coding. Like, that's, I think, a good way to explain it, right? Like, you know, you can just make your own app experience without being in the actual app. Like, you're not owned by Zuckerberg, you're free from his spell. But I would also say, like, maybe leaning more into the customization stuff, because I know for a lot of communities, like, that's what gets them excited. Like, oh, I can like make something and it's really cute, which you can't really do on most everything on the web anymore.
Thank you. No, that's a great point. We definitely love that kind of thing with Leaflet, and thinking about customization not only like within a single app, but how that can go across apps, like defining a creative identity that you could potentially take with you across different apps, and like plugging those together in ways that work nicely, where you don't have to explain too much, I think is a really compelling thing to figure out.
I wanted to plus one that in particular because I was seeing the customization on Blue Sky. I was like, wow, it's really cool. And when I started looking at actually how to do it, I was very overwhelmed because like lexicon, like what the heck is that? Luckily, Dan Abramoff was like, I'm really excited about this protocol. I want to get on a podcast. And I'm like, hey, how about you come on mine? Because I have no idea what's going on. So I had him on my live talk show on Friday. And in that conversation, it brought it back down to earth, I think, where I really understood like what this is getting at, because one of the ways he said it was like, do you like RSS? And I said, I love RSS. And he's like, yeah, it's basically that, but it's much more. It's like taking it to level. And that's how I got like really excited about it. And I started thinking about the customization piece, and I'm like, oh, how could I share my style as data that could go around? And I'm like cooking on that because I work in design systems, so I've been doing design systems for a long time, so I'm trying to bring that in. So it's a similar kind of thing of like why I'm here is just like, it's the barrier to entry is looking like it's so technical. There's gonna need to be some sort of unfortunate marketing is the best word I could say about it, to try to get people to come on board because of this thing, because I'm excited about it now that I understand what the fundamentals are.
Definitely, thank you. That's a really good point.
I love this idea of having this like mashups, if you please, of different pieces of technology, right? Like one tool, one, I guess, lexicon or whatever, provides one piece, another tool provides another piece. I guess that's what you're calling for. How would we deal with a situation where some parts of those features make something popular and some other parts make something monetizable and some other parts serve a niche audience? Without building all of that in the same app, it's very hard to sustain whatever you're building, right? How can we collaborate, but at the same time sustain each other and make sure the, I guess, value is spread maybe, or?
Yeah, thinking about kind of the push and pull of evolution that happens across apps, and yeah, I think there's a lot of ways we can take the best things that work and make them easier for people to use by lowering the friction, I think, of having too many different things to put together. So I think that can look like one app adopting other common lexicons, or it could look like just making it a really nice, seamless experience to connect and kind of link between another app. There's, some cool possibilities with things like embeds and making sign-in and auth a lot easier. But I think, it's also just like an education thing, and making the language and metaphors really clear and easy to understand.
And from the peanut gallery, I feel like things like standard site also help, because it's kind of like when people all contribute to one standard kind of foundation that benefits everyone, it makes it easier to build on, easier to customize, easier to create different user experiences that reach totally different audiences who maybe have no idea how atproto works, but they don't necessarily have to. It's like rising tide lifts all ships, and each ship is going in a different direction to a different tropical island.
Cool, yeah. I think part of what makes standard site work too is that it's intentionally very simple and constrained in scope. It's like basically just metadata around like what a publication is and what a blog post is, and then some very kind of basic like lowest common denominator theme colors so that things carry your basic identity across different reader apps and things like that. But then apps that implement standard site can also do their own weird custom things with like advanced theming or whatever that will give you even more power within the app you're using to create, but try to simplify it for the common layer.
It's really cool. What you just said about standard site, though, how does that square with this sentiment that standard site has to grow 1,000-fold if it's supposed to be like a constrained, just the lowest common denominator? Could you speak to like what it means to grow 1,000-fold for this standard? Does it get more niche?
So I think standard site, like what it is and what the scope of standard site is, will continue to evolve, and we'll probably like keep adding features that make more things possible. Like it's early still, but there have been conversations around adding like a language field to better support localization and stuff like that. Some obvious things that just haven't started with because we didn't build them yet. But there's kind of like gradually evolving the standards, the lexicons, based on common needs, and then also just expanding like the user base of proving the value of standard site so that larger publishers and more publishers, from individual bloggers to like The Verge or the New York Times, like eventually could adopt standard site if they feel that there's enough value in connecting to the social ecosystem here.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Any other questions for Brendan? Sure.
Different questions, primarily about standards. I'm not as familiar with standard site, but my understanding is that it's the standards around publishing, right? How should we go about creating other standards around other aspects of social activities, I guess? Instead of creating your own lexicon, should we group together and build a community around certain thing or whatever? Like Strava, I was at the last meetup, and now another walk conversation today, right? So is there anything we need to do not to try to do it alone?
That's a good question. I think so far we've seen a variety of different approaches in how people coordinate around lexicons and data in the atmosphere. Standard site kind of emerged as this set of standard lexicons because there were 3 apps that were all building similar things and wanted to have compatible data. I think there are cases where it's a little more ambiguous or less clear, like what the actual things you would standardize on might be. And it can be useful for apps to start by just building their own things, starting with lexicons that fit their needs, and then over time, if people are kind of finding the same challenges and finding the value in coordinating, could evolve into a standard or maybe multiple standards at like a more granular level. I don't know, there's some interesting things. There's like Lexicon Community that has been doing some stuff around like geodata and stuff. I don't know that world as much, but yeah.
You hear that, Henry? It's time to create the walking lexicon. Any other questions for Brendan? Otherwise, I have a very serious one.
Yeah.
When you first started throwing up your slides, I could have sworn I saw like a poem or like a rhyme. Could you share that?
Poem?
On your very first slide in the speaker notes.
Oh. We're taking back the stack, sending whack, Substack packing. Our plan of attack, a knack for new stacks. Thank you.
All right, everyone, let's give Brendan a warm round of applause.